Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Michelle Mabry. I'm a clinical supervisor with Nutritious Lifestyles, and I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker today, Janet McKee. Janet is the president and owner of Nutritious Lifestyles, a group of 180 dietitians, dietetic technicians, CDMs, and chefs that provide nutrition and food service consultations nationally. She specializes in adult and geriatric nutrition, nutrition for renal disease and pressure ulcers, and speaks nationally on nutrition for the healthcare and food industries. Janet is board-certified specialist in geriatric nutrition, as well as a diplomat with the American Professional Wound Care Association. Janet will be sharing an update on reducing food costs while serving quality food and combating skyrocketing food costs. So without further ado, Janet, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for everyone attending, and I would like to say that I wasn't expecting food costs to go up, but once the COVID occurred and there were reductions in canning and seasoning and production, I knew that it was just a matter of time. So my goal today is to provide you, our clients, with information on how to control your food costs as best you can by serving quality food and trying to combat these skyrocketing food costs, which are astronomical for key items. So our objectives are to show you how to use nutritionally similar items to sub out your menus and to kind of go over what I call the hunt and peck routine of how you would look for items on your order guides that would be nutritionally similar and appropriate for your menu, and to sub out and get better choices for you financially and to make the best out of this difficult situation. The Wall Street Journal reported last week that food costs have not went up this high this quickly since the 1970s. So, and that was a great time of inflation. If you remember, if you're as old as I am, that was the time that interest rates were very, very high, and we had gas lines and all kinds of issues of that. So our goal is to discuss best practices for keeping costs low and quality high, and to discuss how valuable it is to evaluate plate waste in collaboration with your dietitian and team to maybe this is a good time to change menus. So COVID has had a lot of negatives. There have been some positives, though, that we are going back to basics with food production. So I see that COVID has been a negative for our residents and for us, but I also see that it's a time that has taught us as individuals to be creative and to work with what we have. So there's a lot of different things that have happened with COVID. One of them is definitely there have been interruptions in planting. For example, farmers in Plant City had to let their strawberries literally rot in the fields because they didn't have the labor to peck them, and they didn't have a supply to sell them because one of their vendors or one of their sourcers that they provided these products to were schools. So definitely harvesting has been affected. In California, they have to do social distancing, as we all do now, and wear masks. People can't sit beside each other on a bus to go to their place where they're going to pick. There's been issues for transportation and delivery shortages, a lot of inefficiencies, and all of these things have increased food prices. I think it was earlier this week, there was a Wall Street Journal article that discussed that China was not going to buy chicken because there were one of the Tyson plants had to close because of an increase in COVID. So this is just one example that I'm seeing also in the grocery store and also on order guides. In hamburger, the 1st of March was approximately $2.29 a pound. As a 5.5, there was one vendor that was providing that same hamburger for $6.25. Now, it will ebb and flow based on production, but we expect there to be continued challenges. If you don't have staff to work on the line, if they have to be 6 feet apart, there's going to be a consequence of efficiency and increased price. And then also supply and demand. Farmers were literally destroying their pigs and cattle in the fields because they couldn't afford to feed them and couldn't get them to market. So with all the negatives, can we work together to combat food prices? And absolutely we can. Through teamwork, collaboration, working together, that will equal success. It is key that we have partnerships with our food vendors, whether you use Gordon, Cisco, U.S. Foods, Reinhardt. We need to build that partnership. You need to work, food service and directors, CDMs need to work together with your team, with your RD, with your facility management. Your administrator may not have any idea that food costs are on the rise. So what can we do? Well, step one is your menu is your major cost indicator in a nursing facility, really a hospital too. So by analyzing and knowing the cost of your menus, knowing what your center of the plate items are, and better yet, what can you do to provide quality, menu frequency appropriateness, and yet satisfying food to our residents and clients. So one potential option is to use combination dishes. Now combination dishes are very filling. Most of them have great heat retention. So if you do have a COVID unit, those are great foods to send down to COVID victims because, for example, spaghetti pie holds its retention very, very well. It's very inexpensive. So I'm going to be sharing some of those examples. Satisfying combination and starch dishes by changing your menu and giving a little bit of variety for combination dishes can help satisfy your residents and also control your food costs. Some examples of these combination dishes that you would find in your recipe manuals or Foods for 50 or your vendor manual would be spaghetti meatballs. If you use 2 ounces of meatballs and lots of pasta and tomato sauce, then your resident is full, they're getting their protein needs met, and we typically do not have an issue with inadequate amounts of protein on menus anyway. They're usually above the standard of what residents need. Another example would be shepherd's pie. Another example would be a turkey pot pie. So, and those can be used using convenience items such as chopped turkey and frozen vegetables because some of your staff may get COVID and you may have call-offs. Ham and cheesy potato casserole, rice and beans dishes. Other items are things that, and depending on what part of the country you are, it may be appropriate to have a bean and chili burrito. Turkey tetrazzini is accepted by many cultures. An enchilada casserole, either for breakfast with an egg product or have it with eggs and meat as a casserole in the evening. Egg and bread casseroles, Frito pie is an example. A vegetable cheese burrito gives you adequate protein by adding beans and peppers and onions. Then that gives you almost a complete meal in one dish. Egg and vegetable burritos, chili and cornbread, because some of these chili with a small amount of meat product and cornbread make a perfect protein. So by giving these satisfying dishes that are low maintenance to prepare, low labor, is a win-win for everyone and will help reduce your costs. Always evaluate your center of the plate at all meals. A chicken breast, according to the research I did, would be 96% for a 4-ounce edible portion, 5-ounce raw, 4-ounce edible portion. You could get the same amount of protein using boneless chicken thighs for 42 cents for the same service. Now, you can make them chicken breast a l'orange, but you can also make the boneless chicken breast barbecue, chicken a l'orange, whatever you really want. And if you look at that, that's 54% savings. Another example would be using combination foods for pure protein. Sliced ham of the Smithfield plant, I believe in the northwestern part of the United States, was completely closed for 2 weeks. We haven't caught up from the inventory yet. Some of our pork products are still expensive. So one option would be to have ham and beans as a replacement for a sliced ham. The sliced ham is 96 cents a serving. The ham and beans would be 36 cents a serving, same amount of protein. So by looking at your center and plate and looking at your order guide, you should be able to use the hunt and peck method. You also should consider using tougher meats and using different cooking techniques, such as a bottom round flank steak. If you had steak on your menu, a flank steak or a skirt steak is tougher generally, but you may tenderize that by using various things. An item that has worked very well for London Broil, who's a much cheaper cut of meat than a nice sirloin or either a filet mignon. If you use an acid-based marinator for 24 hours prior to that, you can make that meat much softer, and it's a very high-quality product if treated properly with moist, slow heat. So your proteins in these charts are exchangeable. A flank steak equal an ounce of hamburger. An ounce of fresh ham equal an ounce of Canadian bacon. So whatever the best price for you at the time is what you can look at using. And what makes the most sense for your residents' preferences and what you want to do with your menu. Same thing with poultry. Chicken, turkey, all nutritionally sound. Turkey sausage is a very good product. If for some reason we still are having issues with pork, a week from now, you'll know what to do. Fish has not been affected very much, except right now there's some discussions about Chinese marketplace for fish. I didn't realize this. We do import some fish products from China. Some of those may not be available because they're locking down the ports, starting with various towns that are now being affected by COVID in the China market. So all these are exchangeable products. An ounce of chicken equal a quarter cup of cottage cheese. All these can be flipped out. So if you were to go on your menu guide and you had a recipe calling for shepherd's pie that has hamburger in it, and hamburger from beef products was $6.96 a pound, and turkey, ground turkey, was $3.90 a pound, it certainly is an option to use that in the product that you're making, which would be turkey tetrazzini, or it could be a beef stroganoff product. And when you use turkey products and chicken products to replace beef, you need to spice them up a little bit because the fat and the higher fat products, which would be pork and beef, carry flavor, and so you need to flavor them up a little bit. So luncheon meats, egg whites, and again, there has been some issues with eggs pasteurized, and we had some extensive literature out to our clients about that last week. But here's where you can look at your menu very well. Eggs are good substitutes. If you cook a product that's not pasteurized, remember it has to go up to 160. Peanut butter products, lentils and beans, canned baked beans are all great sources of protein and very, very inexpensive. So those are options for you to consider when we're going through these various changes in our industry and affecting food costs, and how can we navigate through this sea. So here's another example of this product is spaghetti pie. Well, when this menu was checked, at the time using that particular vendor, 80-20, hamburger 80 lean, 20 fat, was $6.29 a pound. By subbing out ground turkey at $4.29 a pound, that's a huge cost savings. The ground turkey would need to have a little bit more spice though, because again, it doesn't have the flavor of full-fat beef burgers, or hamburger ground, so we want to address that. And we want to make sure that our taste is good in our foods, because we definitely want our clients to eat, especially during this time. Another example would be to have your meal, which calls for chicken breast, olive orange, 21 grams of protein, 3 ounces edible portion, green bean casserole. Now your green beans are canned. You've got your cream of mushroom soup. You got to put your crispy onion rings on the top. Rice pilaf and garlic bread and pistachio pudding can either be made very simply or use canned. But by using boneless chicken thighs, using the same amount, you get 21 grams of protein, you get buttered rice using green beans, sweet pimentos, garlic bread, pistachio pudding, you save about 50 cents a meal. Now, over a period of time, that would make a huge, huge difference. Another example of a reduced labor and satisfying protein exchange meal would be if you had beef steak with gravy, mashed potatoes, steamed fresh broccoli, buttered cornbread, a brownie with icing. By switching that to an inexpensive entree such as shepherd's pie, by using canned garden peas and instant mashed potatoes and ground beef, or if it's cheaper to use ground turkey and spice it up, top it with cheese, steamed frozen broccoli, buttered cornbread, and a brownie, you're going to save another 50 cents or more a serving. So those are very, very helpful ways to produce quality without reducing the residents' satisfaction levels while saving a huge amount of money. So by looking at having a meatloaf product, baked sweet potatoes, remember how labor intensive they are. You have to wash the potato skins. You have to bake them, pop them so they don't burst in the oven. You have to butter them, put brown sugar on them, etc. Greens, biscuits, pound cake for $1.78. You can get an excellent meal by using hamburger stroganoff, by using either hamburger meat from beef or turkey and spicing it up. Greens of choice, biscuits, and a pound cake. You can again save money doing that too, and you can look at it as 33 cents a meal savings. So those are excellent ways to reduce the cost of doing business and using complete meat-based proteins by using combination. Here's another example of, and this would be appropriate for many markets, especially those in the border towns of Texas. So if you have hamburger steak and gravy, rice, steamed broccoli, rolls, and ice cream with strawberry toppings, an easy switch would be a beefy bean burrito, which residents generally love, especially in high Latino populations, topped with cheese, a side of onions and green peppers, buttered, spiced a little bit, with a rice product with strawberry iced vanilla cake. Remember, your sheet cakes are easy peasy to produce, and you're looking at this particular meal saving 61 cents, which is huge. So think about using your seasonable vegetables when you can. So summer corn on the cob right now in a lot of areas in June, summer corn comes off in the Carolinas. It will be dirt cheap. Farmers will be wanting to give it away practically. There may be an opportunity for you to use seasonal vegetables when you're allowed to in your communities. So follow your health insurance regulations. A few years ago, I thought it was fabulous. We were working in the Kentucky market, and they had local farmers that had a bumper crop of pumpkins. So they sold their pumpkins for $1 a piece, and they made pumpkin soup and some really good products. So if you look at this analysis, spaghetti squash isn't particularly in season in this market in the summertime, so it's 40 cents a serving. But a farmer in the Carolinas, especially now because corn is coming off now, 25 cents a cob and canned cream corn for those that were not able to bite it off the cob, which would be some people would not be able to do that. So exchange your vegetables for the most cost-effective ones. So all these groups are interchangeable. A half-cooked vegetable is the same thing as 3/4 of a juice and 1 cup raw. So those are very, very helpful vegetable substitutions. Now, earlier this year, I got notification there was a shortage of broccoli because in one of the Target asparagus marketplaces, it had not been cold enough to develop a lot of asparagus. Therefore, at one time, it was $4.99 a pound. Frozen steamed broccoli, on the other hand, could be had for $1.29 a pound. So it certainly was a better buy And actually the broccoli has more vitamin C and a very high level of vitamin A. So those are very, very helpful things to think about. So by impacting this meal, by going back, you would have meatloaf, ketchup, baked sweet potatoes with marshmallows, buttered fresh asparagus, yeast rolls, and an iced brownie. Very high maintenance meal, lots of labor there, and costly. On the other hand, if you have turkey pot pie by using turkey chunks, which can be the dark pieces of meat pre-chunked, and frozen vegetable blend in a gravy mix, steamed broccoli frozen, a dinner roll, and a sheet cake brownie with vanilla icing on it, that will save you a tremendous amount of money, almost 20 cents a serving. So for one meal, that's huge when you're looking at your annual food cost. Another example would be turkey breast with gravy, fresh Brussels sprouts, mashed potatoes with gravy, dinner roll, iced chocolate cake sliced. And remember, your sliced cakes are going to be more costly. By switching to turkey tetrazzini, using green beans, and topping them with a colorful product like a couple of diced carrots as a garnish to the side, or possibly using canned pimento, garlic bread, and an iced cake square, which is a sheet cake with a little bit of icing on it, you're going to save again 30 cents. And remember that these are alterations that you can make on your own. So fruits are very easy to come by in the summertime many times, and depending on when the fruit comes off, it's going to definitely affect the cost. In Georgia, in July and August, there'll be lots and lots of fresh peaches. They may be available to some of our accounts for a very reduced cost, but we have to follow the regulations in our communities. So these are interchangeable, but this is a huge savings for you. Instead of using 100% orange juice, you could save a huge amount of money by using an orange juice blend with pear blend, and save a huge amount of money. The blend tastes good, it's got lots of vitamin C, and it's certainly a very appropriate menu substitutions. I've seen that save literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of a large nursing home chain over a period of time, just making that one simple change on the order guide of making that the preferred food. So you want to use a cost effectiveness too. Watermelon right now, it seems to be very expensive still. However, in the order guides and grocery stores themselves, you can get huge amounts of blueberries and blackberries, because they're oversupplied this year, for much less money, and look at your savings. So you want to look at your menus every week and think about what if. Can I change my menu? The answer is generally yes. You want to look at your quality, what your residents like, how the product tastes. Like, you don't want to have tomato sauce on a day that you have, or baked sliced tomato on the same day that you have spaghetti and meatballs. You want to look at the nutrition equivalents. Work with your RD on this. You want to look at your cost, your color, your texture. Raw and cooked go well together. Shape, aesthetics, and you should be reviewing your menu and your pricing, because these prices are very sensitive. For example, we got notice that one of the peanut butter plants had died or burned, and I saw an immediate uptake in the amount of peanut butter that people were ordering because they were nervous about it. The price went up. You should be collaborating all these factors with your RD. Consider all these different factors. You don't want to have chicken and chicken the same day. You want to alter those menus, and you want to make sure you understand what your menu costs. Ensure adequate calories are given. Don't just eliminate items to save money. It's got to be a win-win for everyone, you, the residents, and your cost. So make sure that when you do change menus, people do understand that, and they understand that if you cannot get pork, you just can't get it because of COVID. And by doing your menu substitutions and posting them accurately and honestly, the residents will be very happy and I suspect very empathetic to any changes. Now, another item that can be very, very beneficial is to use dessert, bread, and soup cards. Now, if you use those in your dining room, you can also use them for room service. So by using bean-based soups and cream-based soup and even having a fortified soup, if you do that 30 minutes before your actual entree arrives, the human stomach in an elderly person can only tolerate so much. So if they have fortified cream of tomato and basil soup, and you offer a bread basket of cornbread, that's going to be 600 calories. It's highly likely that when you come back and offer them a meal, they may choose to take the smaller portion. So if you want a protocol on this, you can reach out to Michelle as evidenced by the address there, but you want to consider offering small portions for people that are small and honoring their wishes. I have seen personally many times a lot of food waste when you go into a facility and they give everyone the same portion. If a person weighs 100 pounds, they only need 1,200 calories a day. They simply cannot consume 2,600 calories, which is on your general menu. So if you look at your plate waste, you will see where your money's going, and you definitely, at this point in time, definitely do not want it going down the trash chute. So look at having regular and large portions. However, you might have a 100-pound person that only needs 1,200 calories, but you might have a 6'5" man that weighs 300 pounds and he needs larger portions. So that's important to have cultural dining and really understand what our residents need and want. So you can do room service. This is a high-end. You can do it. I think right now these residents are feeling very fragile. They have not been able to visit with their loved ones. Some of the states are opening up to have some outside visitations, but most are not yet. So by having the administrator, the DOM, and the dietary manager participate in this room service of meals is a great way to perk these residents up and make them feel like they are guests and also valued customers. They don't have to stay in your facility. They can go elsewhere. So if a resident consumes, like I said, the cream of tomato soup, cornbread, they may only want to have the entree. Ask them when they're eating in the dining room, would you like the full size or half portion size? So you don't throw your money away in the trash. And they may want a half a portion of the starch, but they may be saving their tummy for the delicious brownie, because we need to make sure that we clearly understand that taste buds decline, especially the ability to taste salt, bitter, but sweet seems to be pretty stable on the taste panel. So we want to make sure that we always give them the option to have sweets and desserts, because most of them love that. 90% of the population likes sweets. We always want to honor our clientele's preferences. We want to make sure that we give them what they want. Preferences and portion sizes. There's no point in giving a 100-pound woman large portions as a treatment for weight loss when she can barely eat 25% of her regular portion, and she may benefit from a small portion with RD approval and having high protein, high calorie snacks in between her meals because she simply just gets overwhelmed. As we age, our olfactory bulbs decline. Now, there's a couple of reasons why that happens. Aging, taste, the olfactory controls 90% of our taste, which are the little tiny, they look like light bulbs in your nasal cavity. They are affected very much by the aging process. They're also affected by medications. So we recommend that we make the food taste great by using flavor and calorie enhancers like gravies, margarines, rosemary, basil, lemon, pepper, sugar, thyme, MSG unless there's an allergy, chili, cinnamon, and all kinds of our spices. We want to collaborate with your RD once a week on your menu changes and get approval and discuss your struggles with them. it's a partnership. So it's very, very important because the second set of eyes to look at your menu substitutions can be very beneficial. Here's the form that you're certainly welcome to utilize if you would like. And no matter how hard you try, there's always going to be leftovers. Fact of life. Even if you're using production sheets, you're using order guides, you're using projections, you're still going to have some level of leftovers. It's just not avoidable. So by using let's say you have green beans and you have 5 portions left, freeze those up in a Ziploc container and label it in a package and store it. And then on Friday, serve homemade vegetable soup made with your leftover vegetables, a turkey club, using cost-effective daily specials and alternatives. Chili is very inexpensive canned beans, using the chili mix, either a turkey product or beef product. It's very inexpensive protein. Cornbread, and you can provide it, can have it in mass and provide a room service basically or on-demand service for those individuals, so you can pull it out, make a batch, keep it for at least 5 days, and you can also freeze it in PCs as well. Cheesy macaroni and cheese with a fruit gut is an excellent choice for an alternate meal. These are inexpensive, very satisfying, and you can keep them on demand. You can do the same thing with macaroni and cheese and ham. You can make a mass quantity of it, and then you pull it out for PC services for each amount, heat it up in the microwave, and you've got a good backup meal. So what are the best practices for all of us to try to control our costs right now? Well, make sure you follow the menu, because once you decide your menu needs to be altering it, cost it out, and then follow it. Use standardized recipes. I have been in many kitchens in my time, and I know when they're following recipes, and I know when they're not, because the recipe books are not dirty. There's no way to keep recipes clean if you're using them. I also know that the recipe for shepherd's pie is the same as Kentucky as it is in Florida, and it doesn't have broccoli in it. So I have seen that myself. It's important for quality control and cost control to use your standardized recipes. People do what you inspect, never what you expect. Utilize an inventory before you order. You don't want to order a case of cream and tomato soup if you already have one. You should be looking at your substitutions, because right now there will be no end to substitutions anytime soon. As I said before, there was a shortage of canned black-eyed peas a couple of weeks ago. We don't know if that was related to COVID or not. You want to make sure that you review your order guide, place your order multiple days in advance, and anything that's subbed out, you need to approve it with the vendor. And feel free to send it back if you don't need it. Limit your grocery store runs. Use scratch when you can. Now, there's scratch and there's scratch. Does it make any sense to make something that's extremely labor intensive that you can purchase a high quality product that's affordable? For example, it may be much better for your facility to purchase lasagna versus making it just because it's so labor intensive. You want to make your purchasing consistent and competitive. You need to go back and look at your pricing and choose what's best for you. You can purchase items in bulk as much as you can using juice machines that we control, not the residents. Make sure that you're on a strong GPO. Make sure that you maximize your CMAs, which are your special deal products. You want to make sure you purchase based on your needs. Many facilities, especially your very frequent rehab facilities that got 80, 85 admissions a month, their census is low. We have a building in Lake County, Florida. Their census is generally 182. They are now at 120, and the standard reason for that, or the understanding, is that people are not getting voluntary surgeries right now unless they absolutely have to have surgery, and they're not getting it. So using farmers markets, if your regulation allows for that, having relationships with your farming community does your facility good, does your farmer good, does your residents good. Everybody likes fresh. And again, follow the guidelines of your community. So by having par levels based on your software program, most people are now using in your software programs, the par levels should be based on your current census and the diets you have. Maximize your software system. If you don't have a good software system, this is a good time to look at that. Make sure you have prepped your production sheets based on what you really need your census. Use your order guide. Take advantage of your GPO. Work with your vendors. They may have an oversupply of a product that they have very low price on. You want to check the tray line. A number of years ago, a person that worked for us did a study that if you gave an extra scoop of mashed potatoes one time a day for this particular home to every resident, it will cost us $10,000 extra a year. That was very enlightening to me, and it showed how such a small thing can make such a big difference. Place your orders early so you have time to confirm what you're going to receive. Do not feel obligated to take an expensive item you don't need. Do inventory and par levels on your units. If you send down 2 gallons of ice cream, you're going to get empty containers back, and probably most likely it's not going to the residents. Work with your speech pathologist and remove unthickened liquids for a number of reasons. Thickened liquids are very expensive no matter how you look, even if you use a gel thickener. But who wants to drink Jell-O? So look at other alternatives. People can drink water out of Prevail cups. They can also use the free-Fraser method as a way to get hydration with water. And if appropriate, use bulk thickeners such as the gel thickener product. The powders generally, if they're starch-based, a lot of times they do lump up. So post your menu and your portion sizes on your tray line daily. I cannot always remember the tray sizes and the portions and the scoop. And if I can't remember, I've been doing it 32 years, I guarantee you the people on the line cannot. Train your staff to follow the menus and the portion sizes. Liberalize your diet, especially now. Diet should be a 4-letter word. Does it really make any difference if you have an 85-year-old lady that would like to have a piece of cake and with ice cream? So what if her blood sugar goes to 150? It's very acceptable to have elevated blood sugars in the elderly. And also that's why we have insulin. That's why we have oral meds. So these people, most important thing is keeping them fat and happy, as one of my teachers used to say in school. Embrace cultural dining needs. Evaluate your menu. Understand portion sizes. Ask your residents what size you want. One size and portion and one size menu simply doesn't meet all. When you give the same menu, you give the same portion size, you can have up to a 30% plate waste study. And you should know what your plate waste is. It's really best practices for the dietary manager to oversee the order guide. That doesn't mean that cooks and people of that nature cannot be trained to do that. But what it does mean is the buck stops there. The food service director should check on the overseer, the deliverables, and make sure it's appropriate. Check in and compare the order to what you need. What do you need? What are you getting? And what did you actually get when you checked it in? Because sometimes you will find that you will order something and it will get subbed out. So you want to check and compare the order to the needs. You want to return inappropriate and costly items that just are not very affordable for you. You want to store your deliveries ASAP. You want to make sure no spoilage. This is not the time to have spoilage. You want to oversee your inventory process. You want to inventory. You don't want to order already what you have. If you're over budget, go to your vendor and ask for a descending dollar report. Practice and putting your money or looking at where you're spending your money and reduce down for that. You'd be surprised. I have seen descending dollar reports that Mighty Shakes were $2,400 a month. I didn't realize that until I pulled the report. So lock down your storerooms, your kitchens, your nourishment closets. Make sure they're locked down. It's the free-for-all at night, as we know, working in healthcare. Believe me, you as a person and your residents are not the only ones that like ice cream. People that work at night, a lot of times, they get hungry just like we do. It's very slow. They get bored. The ice cream looks very good in the nourishment closet. So know your food service and administrator's expectations. Know what your menu and snacks, subs cost out at. Know your PPD. Know where you are year to date. Be able to explain by showing your administrator a food invoice the comparative analysis between today and January of last year. Know what your raw foods are cost, your chemicals, your labor, your paper goods. Know your expenses and manage them. Best practice, you can do this on a computer software program if you have it, but it's great to have a spin-down report. It makes you accountable. Keep accurate financials, record and code employee meals and guest meals. Right now, our clients have been really giving away a lot of food. Just so for safety reasons, if you go out to McDonald's, get in your car, talk to somebody in the parking lot, it's an increased opportunity to spread COVID. So a lot of facilities are having their clients, or their employees rather, eat in the facility at their expense. So we're looking at trying to keep account of expenses. An example would be using DSSI, or procurement partners. But you also can do that manually, and I will have a form later in the presentation to show you how to do that. Again, free meals can be very expensive. If you're spending $1.80 on each meal of raw food costs, and you give the CNA that works from 11 to 7, she gets her lunch and she gets dinner free, that's $3. That's expensive. So you should get credit for that and be keeping accountable. So you should be keeping a software P&L for yourself to show you where the money is going and where the value and the benefit of a return on investment. You need to be able to share that information with your administrator. If he wants to give free meals, great. But he really needs to understand, or she does, that it comes out of your budget. So keeping an internal report either on your software program or keeping it, you can do it a couple of different ways. You can take the beginning inventory, the ending inventory, and you can figure that out, how you use that, because that's actually what you use for a week, or you can a month, or you can take the raw food purchase. Then you take out your sales, you keep your expenses out, you look at your total patient days of the month, you get your PPD, and that gives you some understanding of where your money is going. If you get paid for your meals, that's great. A lot of people are giving free meals right now, but that's very helpful to have that information. It shows you accountability and where is your money going. Activities. Right now, the residents have been unhappy that they can't see their families, and I don't blame them. So there's been a lot of calls that our residents are snacking, they're bored, they don't get to go out, they don't get to do things anymore. So we've got a lot going on between meals. So all those things are stuff you have to keep accountable for. So there's a lot of waste in the nursing home and hospital industry. Are you doing plate weight studies is the question. We don't want to waste our food. And if you're not doing plate weight studies, because I've seen it in Ohio, we had one building that one of the meals had 46% plate waste. So clearly that menu item was not working for us. So always use an objective methodology, and don't listen to people say, well, the residents don't like that. It needs to be objective and in writing. What was left over when you check it before it goes on the line to get dumped in the trash, there should be an analysis of what they actually ate and then determining why. Sometimes it's because the unit that had dependent diners, maybe they didn't have enough staff and people couldn't eat. That could be one reason. But a lot of the time it's because they simply don't like the food that was on the menu. This is an example of that. This is an actual study in Florida Menu A was liver and onions, mashed potatoes, steamed spinach, vanilla pudding with no garnish. That had a 52% plate waste. Menu B was turkey tetrazzini, steamed broccoli, buttered rolls, chocolate pudding with whipped topping with a 14% waste. That meant that it was certainly time to change the menu and get that liver off the menu and to offer the residents something else that they might enjoy a little bit better. So I'm a big, big, big believer with my own staff, my own family, especially having teenage boys, to inspect, do not expect. People generally only do what you inspect. So it's important during this time that you're trying to manage your cost effectively is that you try to check that line 2 to 3 meals a day, and when you're not there, you train your lead cook to do that. Check your portions. If you have that 1 extra scoop of mashed potatoes every day at lunch for a year, it's going to cost you an extra $10,000. Monitor the quality. Do tasting samples. Train your supervisor or lead cook to audit when you're not there and to assist on the weekends with doing that. Make sure recipes and production sheets are in order. Again, you cannot control costs if you don't follow the recipes and you don't follow production sheets. Train your staff that they're accountable, and this is one of your tools that you manage their performance on. Make sure your scoop sizes are posted and color-coded if at all possible. A lot of people do not understand the scoop sizes on the menu, so it's important that you produce that for them and color-code them if possible so they know. Try not to overproduce if you can, but you're always going to have extra. So use your leftovers. Make those vegetable soups. Use the extra biscuits and leftover rolls for bread pudding. Freeze them. Use cream and have brown sugar and vanilla, cinnamon, great snack for the residents. Bread pudding is a very well-received dessert and snack. Serve cost-effective, but costly snacks are inevitable if you use a lot of PCs. So you want to try to use bulk snacks if you can and prepackage in the kitchen if at all possible. You want to look at limiting your PCs and providing what's needed. HS snacks are the only federally required snack on a nursing home menu. If you have residents requesting AM and PM snacks, that's great, but it should be upon request. And it also should be, if it's, maybe it could be for the physician's order as well. But if you send out enough snacks for the entire unit 3 times a day, it's going to be eaten up not necessarily by the residents, but by other people inappropriately. Here's a snack cycle that has worked very well for one of our clients. So snacks, try not to purchase anything in PCs unless you have to. Purchase approved snacks. You do not have to send sandwiches. They're not necessary. That's where we get our protein from our meals. If you have a resident that needs a high protein snack, a half a sandwich through a dietitian's review may be appropriate. Don't send health shakes as snacks. Because someone's skinny doesn't mean they need an extra health shake. That's why we have clinical protocols. Label your snacks. Use non-perishable snacks. And use drink mixes on your hydration card. And use a hydration card. Sugar-free items are less quality tasting for the most part. Sugar-free brownies in the grocery store as well as commercial food service. They have a high fat content. They still have some level of carb load. They're expensive and often poor quality. That goes the same for almost all sugar-free products. For example, sugar-free medpass is 40% higher than regular medpass. Who cares about that small amount of that carb? It just doesn't make any sense, so we have to be very prudent about that. Who wouldn't want to have a chocolate chip cookie and milk? Whole milk is even better. So we always want to make sure we're managing our inventories. We want to use first in and first out. I have literally seen lots of freezer burn food that had been left there for 2 years, just didn't get used out, used first in and first out. Use your emergency foods in and out, or else you have to throw them out at the end of the year. So here's an example of an emergency menu. Portion sizes. Giving large and double portion sizes to a person that's frail and small like this lady is not effective. And I've seen that my entire career as a dietitian. Okay, great, they're losing weight. Well, we're going to give them double portions, but they can't even eat the ones we're giving them. So what ends up happening is we waste a lot of food. This lady weighs 100 pounds. That is at least 700 to 800 calories on that plate. She simply can't eat it. Residents should be able to ask for more food if you weigh 300 pounds and you need more calories, but this lady certainly doesn't. You should always make sure double and large portions require orders from the dietitian or the physician. Consider small portions. Look at your population. If you have a lot of tiny ladies, and there are more women that are residents in nursing homes than men, and look at your plate weights. You may need to go with a small portion and have the dietitian assess those. So your average menu has 2,400 calories and about 85 to 100 grams of protein. Well, that little lady that we just saw, she only needed 85, and her 85-year-old female self, she only needs 1,200 calories and 55 grams of protein. So if we have her on small portions 3 times a week and she's okay with that, an HS snack, she's going to get more than she needs. So we can see what would happen to what she needs. It would go, this will be going in the trash because she simply cannot eat that much food. Her stomach will not allow that, nor her appetite. Monitor use, order from your formulary, not given without orders. Make sure that you don't give supplements because your nursing staff thinks someone's a skinny little lady and needs to have a supplement with her, a milkshake with her meal. If she gets that, she's not going to eat the food. You end up throwing it with the trash. Make sure that you get rid of supplements when you don't need them anymore. Monitor for waste and consider a medpass. And medpass can be very effective and expensive. Try to avoid those medicinal supplements that are very, very costly. And if you have a limited amount of labor because of COVID, it's much better for them to, if they need assistance eating, to have a fortified oatmeal that can have 600 calories and up to 12 to 16 grams of protein. That far outweighs a supplement and gives them fiber, protein, and quality taste, which would be butter and brown sugar, and who wouldn't like that? So my question to you is, could you honestly drink 3 chocolate health shakes a day and eat 3 meals? And I challenge you to try that one day yourself. And most people after one day are done. So we want to make sure that we don't put anything in our residence care plan that's not reasonable and feasible and that we certainly cannot even do. We want to make sure that we honor preferences day in and day out. If you have a new admission, make sure your form when you come in, when they come in and you're serving milk 3 times a day and the resident says, I don't like milk, take it off. Make sure that we don't send that. Milk is very costly, and I can't tell you the little, I worked in a hospital when I was in high school and college. I worked in the kitchen, and I used to work on the tray line and the dish line. And when we sent milk up to every tray, that's what we did, that was the policy, literally bags and bags of milk containers had to be thrown out every single meal. So that could be as much as $1.20 in PPD waste just in milk alone. So make sure that you talk with your administrators and your corporations and tell them. Some people that are your superiors in a nursing facility or a corporation, they don't watch food prices. You do. So educate them. Share, go online, look at this article. It clearly said in the Wall Street Journal, and this is the person where I pulled it from. I read that to try to check food prices daily. Food makers and retailers were pumping up food prices, and it has been the biggest jump since the 1970s when there was severe inflation. You as a healthcare food service director professional will need to hunt for value. And if you're like me, you can't see your own house when it's dirty. An example of that, when I first got married, I thought my house was very clean. However, my mother-in-law chose to differ with that opinion and pointed out the various things. Point being is I saw it every day, so I really didn't see the mistakes I was making, but when she pointed them out, I said, yeah, I see that cobweb up there on that light. But have the dietitian or audit yourself using a cost control form. Is there an order guide in place? Are you using a lockdown order guide? Does anybody on your staff go to the grocery store, which of course is going to be more expensive? Make sure you follow best practices. Sometimes we just forget. Post the practices in front of you so you follow them. We are humans. A lot going on with COVID. So we just want to make sure that we're following the standards of care. These are really strong suggestions, patching in bulk. This is available for you to use. Follow your formularies. I'd like to thank you for your time. I believe I have 3 minutes left. If you have any questions or we can help you with any of your cost control issues, email Michelle. You can always call our office at 407-894-1444.